Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 105 of the Well Done Life podcast. And hello, and welcome to the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've been here before, you guys know the drill. I love you deep. I truly appreciate you guys continuing to support me. I'm sure you can see we have a guest this week. I am very excited. I'm very happy to welcome Yvette Weir to the podcast. So we have lots of conversation. I'm going to give Yvette an opportunity to make sure that she is able to share her story with you and introduce herself. But before we get started, I always like to make sure that I'm extremely foundational with when we do our episodes. I like to make sure people understand why we're here and what we're doing. So we are building a safe space for women. And in that safe space for women, I always like to make sure that we build our foundation on two very important things, and that is clarity and love. So clarity is pretty straightforward. This, like I said, is a podcast that I created, a safe space for women, because I truly believe that women are the foundation of society. I really think that we need more spaces where we can connect and talk the good, the bad, and the ugly. You guys listen to me a lot, but I also love to spotlight amazing women like Yvette and tell their stories, because I think that there's always a lesson to be learned sometimes in the tragedies, and there's motivation to find in the success, because, hey, we can all pull each other up through having great conversations. So that's what this is foundationally all about. And then the other main tenet is love. Y'all know I love love, and everything that we will do in this space is rooted in love. This is not a tear down kind of space. This is a lift up and support kind of space. So I want to make sure that when you're spending time with us, that you know that you are loved. So I am truly sending you prayers this week. I always like to send prayers to everybody. I'm sending y'all prayers of peace, prayers of hope, prayers of understanding and empathy. We need a lot more empathy out here. These streets can get a little rough for everybody. So please be empathetic. Try to be a little kinder this week. And I'm also sending you prayers of courage. That kind of leads me into like last week's episode. I want to thank you guys for the support that I have gotten and the encouragement on my episode 104 of I Am Worthy, because I told you guys something very transparent. I don't even think, Yvette, I didn't even get a chance to tell you. I resigned from my position. I had worked for a company for 14 years. And I left. Today actually was my last day. That is why I was a little late. Thank you. I was wrapping up. I worked into the last human moment to make sure that they were on the right foot, just because I wanted to leave them in the right position. But essentially, I wanted to talk about my journey and hopefully inspire some women to understand that we are worthy of taking an opportunity and deciding that maybe the direction that we're in is not the right direction. And we don't have to be comfortable in mediocrity because it feels safe. You know, mediocrity always feels safe and easy, and that's cool. But if you are feeling a pull inside of yourself to do more or to be more or to have more, because money is important too. You should be paid your worth. And unfortunately, you have to demand your worth. You can't just ask for your worth. So I hope that by sharing my journey with it and how I'm starting this whole new adventure with a whole new company and a new perspective, that maybe I'm giving you guys some encouragement to bet on yourself, because that's what I want everyone to do. And that kind of ties into the theme of where we are this month in April, talking about our worth, talking about our value, the changes that we are going through, the risks that we are taking on ourselves so that we can live the lives that we want to live. So I'll link episode 104 in the show notes, but I am very excited about welcoming, like I said, Yvette. So Yvette, welcome to the Well Done Life podcast. I am so happy to have you here. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Why don't you tell the Well Done Life audience about yourself, and let's kind of dive in.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Pamela. This is, it's an honor to be on as a guest on your show. And what great news that you just dumped on us. Can't wait to hear all the juicy expansions on that at a later point, I'm sure. So you asked me about myself. Wow, that is so broad and it's so deep. I don't even know where to start. But I will say, people know me. People know me as a free spirit. They always say that, oh, Yvette, she's got such a free spirit. And I accept that. I claim it. There are certain parts of me now that I'm saying I should start to root and not have so free spiritedly. But at my heart, I'm a free spirit. At my heart, I'm a creative. I'm also a dentist. So, those are two different things. You're in the hard sciences, you're in healthcare, and then you're a creative at the same time. That's how I see myself when I relate to people. Even I take that into my profession because, of course, anytime I'm working in the anterior region in particular, all that creativity comes in trying to do something in your mouth, and nobody would know I was in there. That's the ultimate, to not leave any tracks behind, literally. So my color matching is so perfect. It's so smooth, that you wouldn't even know I was there. Right? That's my creativity. But, I do art. I do retreats. I've written a book. And so there's a whole lot of creative juice inside of me. Yeah. I would also say I'm an explorer. I love to explore the world. I started when I was very young, exploring the world through books. And so cultures and geography and just having an idea of, how the world operates outside of a small sphere is what reading did for me. And I was a voracious reader. I read in the bathroom. I would read just before going to bed. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Feel me? You yourself included. All right. Yeah. I would read walking on the street, just looking out of my peripheral vision there. I just read until I said one day it's time I wrote my own book. I've been reading everybody's book. So I've explored the world through books. And then I've been blessed to be able to explore the world as an adult, living in multiple countries, working in a few of them as well. And that also puts me in, I think gives me a leg up in my practice as well, because, people come in and either I may have been in your region of the world, your country, or I understand the mores. I understand the culture. I had one patient who said to her daughter, sit down for auntie. And I'm like, oh, I understand, auntie. That's a lot of respect there, Right. I have some of my patients who always sit on the chair and take their shoes off. Truth be known, I'd love to do that sometimes. But, as I move as American most of the time, I don't do that. But it's a certain culture that does that. And it's like, I'm cool with that. People sometimes come up real close to me when they're talking. I'm cool with that too, So I just kind of move in and amongst the cultures and the peoples of the world. And I love it. So I did a little bit of work in diversity and leadership as well. And when I did it formally about 7-8 years ago, I said to myself, man, this is what I was in diversity before I knew what it was called. I was moving in that space way before, right. So that's me in a little nutshell.
Wow, that's not a little nutshell, ma'am. That's quite a bit. That's a lot.
You unpack what you want.
I totally do. And it's funny, I had a question, but my first question would be, with you describing yourself in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And obviously you have so many passions. What is one word that you would use right now to describe where you are at this point in your life? Just one.
Can I use 3?
Yeah. Okay. I'll take 3. I'm flexible.
I would say a creative, a connector. I love that one. A creative connector and an explorer, because I will continue to explore the world. So I'm so sorry. I don't know which one of those is higher than the other, but if I were to choose one, it would be maybe connector, because that's really close and dear to my heart. I think you may have mentioned that in your intro as well, maybe a space for connecting, but I'm all about connecting. And I do that organically and naturally everywhere I go.
I could totally see that, because I know when I was doing research for our call, I noticed that you have obviously your Fit Vegan page, and then you have your retreats page, and then you have the other page. There's so many different branches to you. So I could understand where, you would be a connector, because you're, like you said, you're working with so many different groups. How did you get started in dentistry with all of this underlying passion still?
Right. It's a really interesting story. Um, I went to undergrad and I started in med tech and ended up with a bachelor's in biology. And I went to school rather early because I had done some skipping, And so
you were smart.
I don't know about that, but it's just, I'm competitive,
Okay.
So I ended up in school in college at 15, and my cousin was also there, a little bit older than I, and she was doing biology. So I said, okay, I'll do biology. Like, what do you know at 15? I mean, most 15-year-olds don't know diddly squat. Most 20-year-olds are still trying to figure it out too. So I followed her. And for years, I would say, if this was shared with me, or if I had the opportunity, I probably would have done journalism. So it's no surprise that I have written a book just last year, because I said that was in my spirit. Journalism and writing is a natural, like, just give me a topic, boom, 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 I'm at it. And I love to paint pictures. And I love it when people say, man, I can just see it. I can just smell it. I'm there, right? I don't have to think about that. I did have to work on dentistry. I did have to work in the sciences. When I skipped, moving from the Canadian system where I was born to a British system where my parents lived in the Caribbean, I was not prepared for math and science, especially having skipped. I was not prepared, and I didn't get the support. Right. Mm-hmm. So when I did an English test, I tested so high and I finished it so quickly. They're like, yeah, skip her on. But as I was really, really struggling, I struggled in chemistry, and my aunt was a teacher, and I lived with my aunt. Go figure. Ouch. Yeah. So I went out of chemistry for a hot second, and I went into geography, which was something that I could read. Mm-hmm. And understand. And chemistry is going to pull in math, and I didn't have that foundation.
Okay.
So I had to work. I had to work in the sciences, and I will say in the very beginning part, in dental school. Well, how did I get into dental school? I digressed, went down a rabbit hole. I went into dental school because at the end of biology, I still didn't know what I was going to do with this. It's not a professional degree. It's an academic degree. So it's a stepping stone on to medicine or dentistry or pharmacology or something like that. I was like, what am I going to step onto? What?
Right.
Where next? So I went and I started a master's in science because it just seemed a natural corollary. And I'm in Christian private schools. This was my parents' desire that, educate this child, educate all our kids in Christian school for as long as possible. Mm-hmm. And so I say that to say they don't have a plethora of degree options. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
When I hear of degrees right now, like a patient of mine said, she's doing something qualitative, something. I'm like, how'd you figure that out?
Right.
And what it does is it allows her to run clinical trials. I'm like, oh, okay. Like there's so many branches that I wasn't exposed to because I wasn't at a large public university. Right. So there I am doing a master's and really, really just can't deal with the rats and all the experiments and stuff. I do all the writing down. I said, I'll write all the data.
Note. Okay.
You guys, I'll do the notes and you guys can euthanasia the rat. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was saying to myself, this too is not going to work. I know I'm in it, but this too is not going to work. At that point, journalism would have been a welcome. But it was still not presented. It was still just not there. So I'm a doctor today because I didn't have that option. But somebody stepped into my sphere and said this to me, and I just gravitated towards it immediately. Have you ever thought about dentistry? No. It's a good field for a woman and a mother, really. Always wanted to be a mom. I'm like, all right, that's it. That's it. Nowadays, you need to go do all your shadowing to make sure. It's a very expensive program. You're going to come out with a bunch of loans. I did it 20 plus years ago, so it wasn't, that bad. Mm-hmm. But I just got up and said, oh, it's good. I have all the prereqs. It's good. You could be a mother. It's good for, okay. Done with the master's, done immediately. And I just applied right away. I applied right away. I got in right away. And, the rest is kind of history. The part that I enjoy the most about dentistry is the people. And it comes as no surprise now as I do more self-awareness, self-reflection. What is it that you like the most about this profession? It's really the people I connect with. It is a space where people come in a lot of times very nervous, very closed, very fearful. If they are adults, they can't move. They can't share the feelings they really want to share. And so, I've honed and just been able to work with them. I don't use nitrous on anybody. Oh, wow. I don't give anybody diazepam or anything. I give them me, right? And so far, it's mostly successful.
I love that. That is some powerful things. I'm lucky I don't have to have that stuff when I go, but for some people, there's so much fear. And so having that natural, obviously, personality to be able to calm people, that's a gift. That is truly a gift.
We are in there laughing. I heard one lady say, this is like a girl's day out. I say, yes. Yeah, when I hear, okay, so I don't go in to be a comedian, but laughter does happen. And then to me, it's golden because you can't be laughing and have, cortisol damaging hormones coursing through you, creating stress at the same time. They're like mutually exclusive. Right. So I know that you have relaxed enough. I heard one time somebody said, man, I'm laughing, but I'm in pain. You have me laughing, but I don't have a toothache. I'm in pain. Don't make me laugh. I said, I'm sorry. I'm just, that's how it is. Yeah. That's God.
That is so awesome. So kind of going back, it sounds like you, and the reason I'm saying this is because I can relate. I mean, for those of us that are a little seasoned, career planning was a very different thing back then when we were in college. You're right. Like half of the degrees that are available now just were not options back there. They weren't thought of, it's the traditional path. Yeah. When did you decide in your journey that, yes, I'm happy with the traditional path, but I also need to tap into more of the creative? Like, how did you get to this point?
Right. So I started to realize, so I've had a practice twice. Okay. And I was happiest when I ran my own practice naturally. I'm my own boss, even though, payroll came by with disgusting regularity, every time. Oh my God, is payroll again? Oh,
business owner syndrome right there.
Business owner blues, But I was, so when I first started, I was quite young. I was in my 20s and I owned my first practice. And so it was pristine white and green. Maybe it was off-white anyway, and green. But I made it have that professional kind of look, what I thought the area and people would want and expect. And then made a detour, sold it and moved overseas, and then came back. And, that just more that kind of free spirit thing going on. And my daughter, I think it was, I have 3 kids, and my daughter said, Mom, when are you going to own your own practice again? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not pressed for that. And then I did own my own practice again. But now I'm older, I was older and more comfortable in my skin and what I had to offer to my patients. And so this is what I did. I think the waiting room was lavender. There was green in there somewhere. There was blue. There was color all over. There was color all over the office. There was a quote, because I love words. So I'm bringing something in that I enjoy. And it said, we only pass this way but once. So just a play on the song. If there's any good that I can do in my dentistry, I think it was, let me do it now. So I just stuck dentistry in there. But it's right there in the waiting room. I only pass, you may only pass, our paths may cross, but this once, let me do the best I can do for you, And so that was so much more meaningful to me than, just the white, pristine kind of look that I did 15 years earlier. And then I had this one room where I put a scripture verse, and it's like, I think it said something also like, who should I fear? Dr. Weir? Oh, no, or something. Or fear not. I think it was out of Joshua or something. Fear not, don't fear her, And so there were 3 ops. You could go to another room if, you didn't want to look at scripture or whatever. But I think people looked at it like, okay.
Yeah, very comforting. Yeah.
Yes. I played gospel music most of the time. And, people came in and it was upbeat, so it was a very upbeat, happy place. And I strove to have my staff, it's like, we're a family, and you have to love children because, kids come in and they need to be held by somebody, you're going to hold them, you better love babies and infants, it's part of the job description.
Absolutely.
And so then I started to realize that, so I got divorced, and that just changed. A lot of things shifted. I didn't keep that practice, and I moved out of state. And I realized as I came back working as an employee for others, I didn't like leadership. We just don't focus on leadership. I do. I went to school for it after, but a lot of doctors are clinicians, right? I mean, that's the nature of any doctor. We're all clinicians. Right. How much you dial into and spend time learning about people skills, hey, that's on you personally, or it could be that you could be a natural leader, but more often than not, it's left to an office manager. Office manager is never trained for that. They know very well how to collect money and how to bill out for things. And again, so there's just these voids. And so I didn't enjoy it as much. I'm not 5 years out, 7 years out, 10 years out. You're slogging through people and their issues, the haters and people that just can't appreciate what you bring to the table. I mean, one of the saddest moments I experienced, but, because I have had more years in dentistry now and understand the lack of leadership sometime was somebody wooing me away from a practice to come and work for them, to fire me or let me go after 1 week.
That's crazy.
It's madness. Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. There was nothing complicated. There was nothing difficult per se that happened during that week. As a matter of fact, the only thing I said was, when are we going to get some more patients? Like, I'm a busy bee. I'm not here to just sit down and just chill and be on my phone. I thought you said you were busy. And I'm still not saying this in a disrespectful way. And so it was so ludicrous that I just collected my check and that was it. I never said, really? Seriously? Anything? Nothing. If that had been at the beginning of my career, it might have been, boo-hoo, because I did that. I did do that once. Like, I can't believe this,
Right.
I'm a good doctor. I'm not doing anything, and I really pride myself on being a professional and a team player. And, being as the decision maker was not in the office, I really kind of felt betrayed as well. Like you're not observing me, you don't see me, you don't see the interaction at all. It's that daggone office manager again saying something like, what? 1 week, not even a month, 2 months. So I said, I know I have it in me to do, like, I started my own practice when I was just 2 years out of dental school, maybe a little bit early. If I were to go back, I would have gotten a lot more experience, observed a lot more before trying to go out and do it my own. But even then, it was like, I'm my own boss, so what I had in me straight out of the gate. You know what I mean? Right out of the gate, I'm gonna start my own thing. But I said, there's got to be something else. So I started thinking about, how my ability to speak, wanting to be a motivational speaker. Man, I've been sitting on that for years and years and years. And the problem with dentistry is it's a river of a stream of income. And then when you think of, I've got to start at a tiny little trickle of a stream, it stops you sometimes. And so COVID has been like the great reset, because I was only the essential, the oral surgeons were on, or just one doctor was on. Everybody was sent home, and I was one of them. And so it gives you a lot of time to really think about, well, what else, or is this the time? And I started my art because it was a very therapeutic and calming experience during the time of COVID. And then I started a page and started selling it. I coach on occasion, especially pre-dental students into dental school. But also, I have this young lady who does candles, and I'm always giving her, business tips, so kind of unofficial.
Yeah.
And then last year I said, I'm going to start Wild at Heart. The reason why it's Audacious Retreats and not Wild at Heart is because Wild at Heart was taken.
Okay.
And I didn't feel like saying Wild at Heart. I hate when you put the underscore. I'm like, that's.
Yeah, I know. Everybody
I'm
hates
like,
it.
I love words. Audacious. I am audacious. Okay, so let's go with audacious. But when I put something out there, it's actually Wild at Heart. So I said, I'm going to start some retreats. I'm going to start a retreat business. I'm going to bring people together. There's that connector again.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I am able to bring people from disparate paths. Like, a lot of times people will bring people they're most comfortable with, or they know already. I'm going to bring all my friends from my church. I'm going to bring all my people from my culture, and so on and so forth. And I'm not like that. And I actually have little eclectic groups of people all over the place. And I'm like, anybody can come. Anybody can come, because I know I can connect you guys together. So I decided that I would start this business, made it an LLC, so I could just be serious about this now. Okay. And the platforms would be on leadership, again, bringing back leadership from what was always lacking, I felt, in my own profession. So I do it on leadership and on adventure, because there's the fun, free spirit that is never going to leave me. And I say, a lot of people are just too serious for their own good.
Yes, we are.
They don't know. Yeah, we just, this whole adulting thing, we take it way too seriously sometimes. So my very first retreat was a camp, a tent camp. We did tent camping. And, unless you are, you are going with your kids and Boy Scout, Girl Scout stuff, a lot of, or there's some families that do camping on a regular basis, but, let's magnify that. Let's 10x, 15, 20x that. And then that's even more fun,
That's awesome. Did you guys just decide, or it sounds to me like COVID was like a big reset for you? And I guess with it being such a reset for you and making all these decisions to, start these different businesses, did you ever question your ability or your worth to execute any of this?
No, no.
Wow.
The only thing I question sometimes, not really question,
Okay.
I ponder
Uh-huh.
is the fact that, wow. Okay, either one. Whoa, wow.
Right. Oh,
You have to make, it's like, Yvette, you make all these decisions yourself. Be nice if somebody would be making them with you. You know what I mean? But,
girl, I know.
and you can sometimes surround yourself with a team, not quite at team level, but,
Okay.
I do have some supporters who
Mm-hmm.
attend and support in that way most of the retreats that I've done before. So I've done 3. I was very happy. All 3 took place in the last quarter, like I was just pushing it
Right.
out. So leadership, adventure, and women's empowerment. Those are the 3. I don't want to be all over the place.
Right.
And I say, I can lead someone, I can facilitate your
Mhm.
retreat. So you could say,
Right.
Yvette, I'm going to bring some girlfriends together. We're celebrating this or that or whatever, but I don't want to
Okay.
be involved. Can you do that for me? Right? That's
Awesome.
something I would take on. And we talk together and you tell me what it is you want. So that's what I'm doing right now in 2 weeks for a
Okay.
group that is mostly Guyanese Christians.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Some are healthcare providers, and I have actually done a mission trip with one of the leaders. So he asked me to be involved. So I'm running a retreat, but it's not my own, right?
Okay.
Some of my elements and things will be in it anyway, which is just, the connecting, the love, the warmth, the fun.
Right.
But it's also their group. They're bringing the group together for the most part,
That's
And so that allows me to be kind of streamlined. So a few months ago, somebody said to me, "Are you still doing dentistry?" Yes, I was doing because you might hardly ever see me in the last 6 or 12 months really promote anything to do with dentistry because everything has to do with motivating people, connecting people, showing my art, and let's talk about relationships, So
right.
somebody might really be, girlfriend, are you still in people's mouths? Yes. For the moment. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
Wow. I again, like I said, just I'm floored because you have the ability to do all those things, and that you never wavered
Mm.
in the belief that you could do it. How or where does that unwavering feeling come from? How do
Well,
you know?
I believe God has given each of us gifts and he's asking us to use them.
Mm-hmm.
What is not used will be taken. And what is not used, and you hide it because I fear you, God. I fear you. God says, I don't have any respect for you trying to fear me like that. I gave you one talent at least. So here's one that I think really got me started along the path of, you have other things that you can do besides
Right.
dentistry. And this was it. I was a member of Toastmasters
Okay.
years ago. You're familiar with
Mhm.
Toastmasters, right?
I am.
So,
Mhm.
so this particular Toastmasters that I was in was a real competitive kind of Toastmasters. They were always every speech you did, it was, well, who's going to win this evening? Who's going to win, this meeting?
Right.
And I was winning all the time. I remember though, somebody came in and they were a more seasoned speaker than I was. And I was really nervous speaking against or, after them. And I
Right.
remember I won. And I remember, and these are, Toastmasters, just 4 to 6
Yeah.
minute speeches, right? And I
Mhm.
remember that she gave me a little note that I kept for a really long time in my purse, in my wallet, because it was encouragement. Like I was starting to feel like I could never, just because she had more creds than I did, because she had more speaking experience. But then sometimes you might do something and you're a natural with it, and you have just developed your own kind of style and people just resonate with you, right? So I was on a path to, climb as high in Toastmasters as possible. And at the same time, I'm a Sabbath keeper. So therefore, I can only get so far because a lot of the competitions will eventually be held on Saturday. The only way I avoided it a lot in the smaller area was because my the area president was also a Sabbath keeper, and so she kept things off of Saturday, and that kind of benefited both of us. She was, obviously she's a Toastmaster speaking herself, but I can't control that beyond that space. So, I was reading some devotional scripture, a devotional, not scripture, but a devotional that was reinforcing the concept of, God giving us gifts and, how are we using it? Or even the story in the Bible about what is in your hand. What is in your hand will be used, or what is in your house? Well, I just have one little vase and just a little bit of oil. Go borrow as many vases because I'm about to do something miraculous for you, right? And so I said, instead of just keep trying to win in Toastmasters, and I'm not really going to be able to, for Sabbath reasons, get very far anyway. What if I redirected my ability to speak and used it for you, God? What if? And as I'm saying, what if an opportunity came up to preach in Romania? And I jumped on it because I think quickly. All I needed to do was arrange my work schedule, which I had about 3 months. So, I told them 3 months ahead of time. So I was gone for a whole month.
Oh, wow.
I was able to, speak to my son's school. This was not public school, so it's Christian school. So they understood. I said, give me all his work. He will be homeschooled abroad, and then I moved on. And I'm speaking in English, but I always have to have a translator. I'm in a really small area in Romania, and I was a little bit peeved that I wasn't in Bucharest, the capital, and thinking to myself, and the Bible says, don't think too highly of yourself now. I had the ability to speak in the capital, so why did I have to be in this little small rinky-dinky town somewhere that nobody would ever know of? Well, guess what? I had the best translator.
Oh, I see.
And that was more important to me in the end, because the kind of speaker that I was and the sermons had been given to us, I made it my own. So the sermons had also been given to them. So if I had a translator that was not skillful enough, because I'm not, a third of the time, I'm not even on the text in front of us, then he or she would have been very flustered, And so I believe, and that was about 7 years ago, that was just the beginning of the time that I'm getting ready to bloom. And a lot of the times too, you have it within you, but you're not in the right ground to really start to flourish. It's not that we don't have it. It's just that you're in a space of non-growth. You're in a scorched place, So even if water is trying to get to you, it's just not going to happen. And so post-divorce, when the air is clear and everything and all the healing and whatnot, then I felt like I was truly ready to do more and more into my purpose that had more to do with than dentistry. And then sometimes people adore, and I'm going to use this word lightly, but idolize certain professions like medicine and dentistry. So it's just anathema that you should think of doing something else. Really? Right? And that was kind of the environment. I felt that. So when I was free now, I can explore my gifts and my talents and what else could I do with them, and not feel as if I am taking a step down by adding something else on, And so it started about 7 years ago. It started about 7 years ago with my saying, you can speak, you have a way with connecting with people, do that, but it doesn't have to be Toastmasters. Now I've come back full circle because I'm not I will preach if I have opportunities, but obviously I speak at my retreats. I do my own Instagram and Facebook lives every single week. I am always speaking.
I
So
love it.
yes.
I do. I love how you have tapped into that. I do talk a lot about gifts because I do believe God gives each of us a purpose. He gives us I always like to say God has given us one of the things that will heal the world. Like each of us has something in us that will heal one of the issues of the world. You can use it or you cannot. It's up to you. You have choice. And I love the fact that you have stepped into that and you stepped into it so fearlessly. You do. You strike me as the most confident person I have ever met. Has there ever been
Whoa.
I am serious. Is there ever a moment that you have felt like, I don't know if I can do it? Have you ever had that doubting moment? Because you don't seem like you doubt yourself. And I'm trying to figure out how I can be like that.
Oh, I truly believe when you are working in your purpose and in your lane, that's where the confidence comes from. For example, there are just areas like even if I were to do something in church and someone said, well, do you want to work in the treasury? No, absolutely not. I mean, yes, I can count money, but no, probably not. Do you want me to greet at the front door? Absolutely. I'll just roll out of bed and I can greet because, I love people. So you
Right.
have to, a part of the confidence comes from this is something that you naturally are gifted with. When people sometimes say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do in college, da, 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 da. It's like, what do you do well right now? What do you do
Right.
well? And that's kind of where I am. And that's why I say the part of dentistry that I love the most is connecting with people. Now, I also realize that my hands have the ability to heal. And I work with a population right now, and I have worked with this population now for the past maybe 10, 12, 15 years, and that's the underserved, right? And I love being able to, unfortunately, a lot of them don't always get root canals. Sometimes they just say, just take the tooth out, just take it out. And the interesting thing is that when I was finished with dental school, I had wanted to be an oral surgeon.
Oh, very cool. Huh?
But I said, I am not feeling another 3 to 4 years of post dental school. I'm not feeling it. I've already done 9 years to get to this point, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not feeling another 3 to 4 years, which now would have been like water under the bridge. I would have been practicing as an oral surgeon for 20 plus years. You know what I mean? The time does pass.
Yeah.
It does pass.
Right.
But I do a lot of that very, very, very well and very naturally and very quickly. Like a tooth needs to be out in, anywhere between 3 to 10 minutes. Boom, that's a good one. If I'm going into 20 minutes, I probably shouldn't even have tried it. Maybe it was a little, because you have to know your skill level. I don't even like 20 minutes. I love to pop those things out in 2 to 5 minutes.
And my teeth actually started hurting as you were talking about when I felt like I ached. Like I was just like, oh my God, okay, no, I'm trying to keep all these up in here. Like everyone, I always tell the dentist.
I want you to. But with all fun and joke aside, if you are doing what you're supposed to be doing and what you're called to do, you will naturally step into that with confidence because that's just a part of your gift set that has been given to you at birth.
I totally agree with that. I will say the journey I know for myself, like I would say now, I'm just stepping fully into my purpose and my calling with the podcast and like just being open and knowing that I want to support and encourage people. I'm a connector myself, but I am that spiritual gift of exhortation. I speak life into people. So I claim it, I own it, I understand it. For a lot of people that I encounter, I know that they're looking at how to tap into those sides of themselves as well. And let's be real. I mean, it's scary. You have to really own the good and the bad parts of yourself so that you can truly be free and step into it. And for yourself, have you ever was there ever a question about that? Like, did you doubt? I mean, you've been through a lot. Like, you've had divorce, you're a single mom now. How do you keep yourself encouraged
Courage.
to keep pushing yourself through?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, let me really and truly acknowledge that it is a journey. Now, I speak a lot now, but I remember when I was a senior graduating from college, and they were getting the class officers together, and I was zoning out, looking out the window, not even paying attention. And then they chose a male to run, or two men to run for the class president. And then somebody said, well, wait a minute, we don't even have a female. And then it's like, what about Yvette? Huh? What? And I will always look back on that as a totally wasted opportunity, because I didn't have confidence in myself, didn't have any experience up until that point. And all I could think of was, and I'm going to have to be speaking before everybody on graduation day. That I just moved it all the way to graduation day. And I was like, I could not do it. I could not, don't even try. Anyway, I ended up being the vice president, which
I know.
the little figurehead vice president position. So I was the second person to walk in, and, Adventist graduations are a 3-day affair: consecration Friday, baccalaureate Saturday, and then the actual graduation on Sunday. So every single day I walked down second in command, walking in the room, but then I didn't have to do a speech. Okay. So now fast forward like a mighty long years. And it's like, seriously, Yvette, like, you do speeches now. Like, I get up and I go into a strange place, and I look out at people and I say, you guys are all my friends. And you can't wait to hear me, right? That's the mental stuff that I'm doing in my head. My friends, you want to know what I have to say, right? And I use that to kind of relax myself. So let me not be overly cocky or confident and let you feel as if, I just jumped into this. No, because there was a moment when I had a really good moment. And then I didn't have anybody. And like yourself, that's why I come behind people and encourage them all the time, because I didn't have anyone. The person who suggested my name suggested it because I suppose they had the confidence, that I could have led that position. But also it's like, we don't have any females in the pool, in the mix, right? When I said, oh, no, I would never be able to do that speech, I'm sure I may have verbalized that. I don't think that was an internal war. It would have been nice if somebody had said, no, you can't. Like, I'll work with you. That's what I do with people now. Yes, you can do this. What do you need help with? Because I enjoy making people's day. I enjoy adding value to their day. I enjoy smiling with them, because smiles are free and it comes right back. People seem to like my tea, so it just puts them in
nice tea.
mood. So I go ahead and just, I smile. But I didn't have that. All I could think of, there's going to be hundreds of people. And now the irony is that when you speak to a large crowd, and I haven't done a super large crowd very often, maybe the biggest one I can remember was at a church camp meeting kind of setting, right? Mm-hmm. You see the first few rows. Yeah, and you don't see anybody else, so it doesn't matter. It could be a million people out there.
True.
And if they turn lights on you, forget it. You really not. I'm not seeing you. Like, I'm not scared of none of y'all. I just know you're out there. Intellectually, I know you're out there, but it's not like you're freaking me out because I can't even see you, right? I see the first few rows, and I want to. I've heard a speaker say, "Speak above their heads." For what? Why would I be speaking to airspace above your head? Yeah. I speak to you. Right. I connect with you. Even when I sing, I'm not a big singer, but I'll sing in a trio or whatever, quartet, small group, and everybody else is singing and looking at the text. I'm trying to definitely memorize the text so I can sing out those words. Girl, I am singing straight to you. Do you hear me? This message is for you. Woo! She's looking at me. Yes, I do. I do. And that's part of connecting. It's part of
Yeah.
connecting, making that eye contact. You know, I had a patient, I think it was today, and she had a lot of work to be done. And I said to her something to the effect of, it's going to be okay. And then I held her gaze for just a second longer. Right. I always also ask, do you have any questions? And I really pause and sit in, do you have any questions? Because even though I'm rushing between checking hygiene patients and coming back to my own patients, I never want them to feel that their doctor is rushed in the exchange. So I will stop. I will look at them. Is there anything? Because I'm right here. I'm not leaving until all or any question that you have is answered.
That's so wonderful. So rare. A lot of times. So rare. Not saying it all dentists are bad, but it's very
Right.
rare that you find that connection because unfortunately everybody's so rush. But if I were to say anything, I feel like connection really does truly feed your soul. It really seems like it inspires you and keeps you going to just keep doing all the things that you're doing. How do you, with everything like now coming online, how are you balancing yourself, like your self-care? Like how are you keeping yourself from being overcommitted?
Well, that's a very important and good question, because I think a lot of times when we feel burned out, it's because indeed we put too much on the plate and then it just topples, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there was something happening at my church the other day that sounded really good. And I am vegan, I'm plant-based. So there was a plant-based cooking. And a lot of times I try to take advantage of learning more about this lifestyle that has been mine all my entire life. But still, I will always be down for learning more. And the first night was the night that I had a big formal women's empowerment night. So I couldn't be at their first night. And then I knew this was coming up. So it's happening this week, I think. It was for 2 weeks. And then every Sunday evening, I have a Facebook Live with authors and people who have written.
Nice.
And so I said to myself, you know what? Not this time. This time. And it's not in my backyard either. I have to drive 20 minutes down the road. Okay. And I am wrapping up, but I'm still doing personal training. So I go twice a week with a trainer at the gym. So I have to, one of those two times is definitely in the day, but one is in the evening. So I have you this evening. I have them one evening this week. Wow. Then I would have them 2 other days. And I'm like, no. So it's a good thing, but it will topple my plate over. And so I said to myself, no, that's okay. You dive into your cookbook and inspire yourself with your cookbooks right now. I have a couple things that I do pretty much daily. So I always wake up and I have my devotion, I have my prayer, and I get centered spiritually. Even if I decide that I'm going to do an early gym day, I will not go before I pray. I will not go before I listen to something that's going to inspire me. And I have something that I follow every single day. Right. And then I move every day. So I am fortunate and blessed right now to work about 1.25 miles for work. And so I don't take my car ever. Unless it's raining, can't get this right now, but but I walk every day, right? Okay. So that's movement. And then I walk every day, and then I'm in the gym maybe 3 or 4 times a week. But as the weather continues to get better and better, I could be running, biking, rollerblading. So it's very, very important. And it has always been a part of my life to move. And I keep movement. Now, it's very hard to be so much into movement and then be sad or be in a funky kind of mood, because, there's certain chemicals, just like you don't want cortisol stress hormones in your body for too long unless you have fight or flight opportunities. The same way that you're out there and you're walking and you're getting vitamin D and sunshines and serotonin and all kinds of beautiful stuff happening. So that's part of my self-care. And if I have something I'm working on, it gives me an opportunity to practice, because I'm pretty much an extemporaneous speaker. I never speak from notes,
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
I use the time to practice as well, right? I go to church every week. I'm not one to be Zooming in or going once a month or whatever.
Okay.
COVID made things a little bit different, of course. We were all Zooming, but now that in person is possible, I go to church. So the connection with people means a lot to me as well. So a couple things I do ever so often that are therapeutic, and then a must. A pedicure. I don't ever do my toenails. Always. I don't.
I love it.
I'm not every 3 weeks either. It could be 5-6 weeks, but a pedicure is done by someone else, right? Pedicure, manicure, and then I love to get a massage because of what I do and the potential of being hunched over, like the hunchback of Yvette. I think it's very relaxing, and because I do a lot of sports and activities like that, it's just almost what the doctor prescribes, and
right.
so those kind of things I think naturally keep me centered. And then I always have my creative ventures. I just finished working on this, so you probably can't see it that well, but I'm always doing the part.
I'll make sure I put the show notes about all your projects in this episode, because I think it's important. And I love the fact that you prioritize your self-care and you have a routine, because again, it's like, for a lot of us, trying to find the balance to take care of ourselves while we're trying to pursue these dreams and take care of our families, it's tough. And you have to treat yourself, you're right, physically and spiritually, especially when you're trying to change your life. You have to really stay on top of that. It's funny, when we did our pre-call, remember we were talking about a name for the episode, and I thought metamorphosis, because it seems like you're changing. But I'll be honest, after our conversation, it doesn't seem like you're changing. This seems like who you have always been, and you're just stepping more into the light of who you are now. I guess if there was just one thing that you would say has been instrumental in this past year for you really just going all out and doing all the things that you have done, what would that thing be?
Great questions as usual. I would say the ability to pivot has never been as strong with me as it was during this COVID period, right? And the resilience that I found. You're single. I don't really have, my kids live with their dad now, but towards the beginning part, they were living with me. And so it's like, okay, now what do you do? What do you do with yourself? And I went out and I did Instacart, and I told my friend, I don't know if I'll ever tell anybody that. And he said,
I'm curious about it, so don't feel shame. I have thought about it. I have.
Yeah, he said, no, that's a part of your story.
Yeah.
And I did that because of several reasons. Why? It took a mighty long time for unemployment to kick in for me.
I see.
Long time.
Yeah.
Right. Secondly, I am a person of action, of movement. Okay, so I'm not doing that. I'm not on vacation, and no, but per se, what you gonna do? And so immediately I stepped into that. I preferred Instacart to Grubhub or anything like that, because I felt like I was doing, just me personally, like I was doing a service for people that were not comfortable coming out and getting their own supplies themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am like a cheetah, I'm fast. So I learned the system really quickly. And then I just, okay, you don't want this? Okay, we're substituting that. Da, da, da. It was just like a new and novel thing. And, our brains like novel.
Yeah, they
Brains
do.
grow with novel, right? And even though someone might look at it and say, well, leave that, didn't you have enough that you could just sit at home and not do anything? I mean, that's not even the point. I'm going to shore up whatever I have because I have no idea how long this is going to be anyway.
Boom.
Okay.
Yep.
And when I came home in March, I did not get started again until October.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I don't know when unemployment kicked in because at one point I gave up on it, but then it mysteriously did come in maybe close to August or September, right? So I got up, so I had something to do. And I knew that, but the days when the days when I started to give that up was when I realized that it had served its purpose. And so I was cool with that. It's time to pivot to something else. And that was the beginning of writing my book. But up to that point, it had served its purpose in keeping me sane, in keeping me physically active. You have to be strong. You're reaching for things. You're moving quickly. This is what I would do. I would always park on the outside. I would never park in somebody's driveway because I just had this thing in me. That's your personal space. I can walk up there with the groceries, but I'll leave my car on the outside unless it was a very long driveway. And then I would run to the door with a couple, then I'd run back, then I'd run forward, then I'd run back, So and also the quicker you finish one and close it off, it's the quicker you're open again for more. Yes. So if you are really a person of speed, you could do well. And I did very well until it got very saturated. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm done. I'm not going to be out here hours and I just barely make anything. But in the beginning, it was a gold mine for a person that's a go-getter like myself, quickly understand it and then move fast. Right. The only times I remember one time it was really challenging was I had to park very far for an apartment complex and the person had ordered like 5 cases of water from Costco.
Oh my gosh.
I went to her door and I said, is there a man here? Is there a man?
Somebody here, come get this water.
Somebody come help me with these cases of water. But, imagine I'm staying physically fit, right? Yeah, I'm lifting, carrying things all the time. I'm staying cardio fit. Because I'm choosing to run to their doorway, and run back to my car. And I'm choosing not to park in their space. So there's always a natural run in there.
Wow.
And then there's just people who were just ever so grateful, because the very beginning part, there was just a lot of anxiety, fear, and stress. And because that's not my natural MO, remember, I'm the one that moves around all the time. So I have different kind of chemicals in my body. It's just like really hard to stress like that.
Right.
I was there for that.
I love it because to me, I think that shows your competitiveness, but it also shows your humility, your humbleness. It's like, I always believe that you should never get too haughty that you can't do any job because you just never know what the circumstances will lead you to in life. So I totally agree. I think that you shouldn't be ashamed to talk about that. That's part of your story because I always feel like sometimes, I hate to say it, when we get to positions where we have more disposable income, sometimes we forget that people are working to survive. And there was a time when you probably were working to survive. I don't know. I always like to treat people with respect, no matter what they do, because I know I have talked to my sister and I have spent many a time talking about how it used to be where I remember trying to scrape up $5 just so I could put some gas in my car to get home from work, or eating a box of cereal just to get through for a week until payday, just to make it happen. And we didn't have options like Instacart or any of those things back then. So I admire anybody out here as a go-getter. And that's what I see in you. You are a go-getter. You are a pivoter. You are someone who's constantly going to stay in action. As we're wrapping up, I have two final questions. My first, do you ever feel like there's going to come a point where you're going to want to slow down? I know you're like, no, I'm going to keep going to the end, girl. No.
Probably. I will keep going till the end.
Right.
When I got divorced, I seem to be a person of immediacy and with that ability to pivot. Because, a lot of people come out of divorce and they're just really broken, like seriously broken down. It takes forever for them to put the pieces back together. And I came out and I said, okay, what am I going to do? Take care of myself and keep myself out of trouble. I mean, I don't even know why I was thinking keep myself out of trouble, but probably just to keep myself busy and occupied, because it's a new dispensation. It's like when people retire and immediately they're haunted because they didn't plan for that, or they just don't know what,
Yeah.
And so my plan was, okay, so now I'm in divorce land. And yes, I will continue with my 9 to 5. Dentistry has always been there for me. But you know what? I'm going to do something that I think I was always doing naturally. I'm going to do it formally. So I have a formal piece of paper and some more knowledge. And that was leadership.
Okay.
So I went straight into that. And then, like I said, when COVID came upon me, it was like, and I was forced out of my 9 to 5,
right.
Immediately. There's my little immediacy. Okay. So what next?
Right.
And you start to think that honestly more and more when you're single and you don't have the second income or person to lean on. Like, honey, what are we going to do now? Let's show me your stash of money, or, you make all these decisions now on your own. And, it's funny, even as a person looking on may think, wow, you do so much, you do a lot. There are also many a Saturday night that I'm just home alone with, the other night I watched a movie. I don't even watch that very often. I might just be on
I can't believe that.
Yeah, I don't even. I watched a little sappy romance movie, a high school romance movie, a little sappy, but it's not like I'm out and I live in a small town. So I'm not out, so I guess the things that I do are really related to, again, getting back to my purpose. I'm working on this retreat for someone that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Right after that, I'm going to be working on a Mother's Day event, brunch that I'll be hosting. And it's not limited to women, but it's all coming together. Let's share stories of motherhood and or how we came through COVID and or how we want to shore ourselves up more with strength. Because I think a lot of times on the other side of 40 now, if we're not in a relationship or not married, we're waiting for that event to happen before we are shored up and we are more comfortable and more confident moving through life's journey. And a part of my message in my women empowerment events is like, do not wait for that man. Do you see me 7 years out of a marriage and I am still single? Do not wait. Do not wait. Prepare yourself. Do you, and then lean into the community. Find a tribe. Lean into that community. Really enjoy yourself. What do you want to do? You want to travel? You want to go back to school? You want to learn a language? You want to volunteer? And that's kind of how I've lived. So I'm not at home feeling lonely. I have moments, maybe nano moments of loneliness. But for the most part, I feel I come to the end of the day and I'm like, okay, I feel fulfilled and like it was productive. I just have this, I don't want to say obsession, but I just have this desire this desire not to have wasted time, because that's something we can never take back. And that's something that we have to give an account to our maker for. Like, I gave you this 40 years on earth, 60 years on earth, this week, these children, this time. What did you do with it? Did you redeem the time properly?
Amen. Amen. I live that same type of philosophy. So I understand. So for you, slowing down is really not an option. You're just living, and you should. I've never been married. And I'm 49. And if I waited for a man, I would never have seen the places that I've seen or had the experiences that I've had. Would I love a partner? Absolutely. And I'm totally open to getting married, but I'm just not clinging to it. I rather live. So I totally am picking up what you're putting down, and I understand it. My final question then for you is, where can we support you? Like, how can we connect with you more, since you are a connector and a powerful woman sharing and motivating other women? I want to make sure I elevate you. So and you can give me a brief list of everything. And I promise y'all, I will put everything in the show notes so you don't have to
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is the golden question. How do we stay in touch? All right. Well, first of all, we haven't really mentioned this, and I know there's no time for this, but the book that I wrote, the Relationship Playbook for Women, shares a lot of my thoughts and my message to women, especially with regards to finding healthy relationships, or what to do in the middle of one that's not going to go all the way. And even after. It's a quick, simple book, and it's found on Etsy. So if you remember the Relationship Playbook for Women, or you remember my name, Yvette Weir, and that's where you can support me with that book. That's also where you'll find other creative ventures that I have. So I have all my art there, and a couple of other journals as well. So it's flowdocdesigns.etsy, but you can also just put the name of the book, the Relationship Playbook for Women, or my name, and everything else will populate. My Instagram pages are flowdoc21. I just finished with the Etsy, so I had to just think about that. Doc21. All my creative stuff. That's where I tend to put. I have 3 pages. I cannot put a 4th one out there. I will not have a life.
Yes, she will. Give her time. She will have another page.
So I put my book. I stick things about my book on that page, flowdoc21. Then Fit Vegan Blogger, I would say, is probably where I'm most active, because I am just always wanting to embody health and fitness and good eating habits. And it's what I do naturally. So I have so much content for that. And especially, again, for, seasoned. I like that term, I think.
Yeah, seasoned. I think, seasoned.
Seasoned and or spicy people,
I like spice. Yes. I love being spicy.
Yes, seasoned and spicy women and men. I appeal mostly to women, and that's fine. So seasoned and spicy women, come find me over there. I'm going to use that, seasoned and spicy.
Boop, have at
it. And then finally, audacious retreats. So when I do my events, and it just so happens that, several are coming up one month after the other, you'll always see it more on audacious retreats than you'll see it anywhere else, because the algorithm probably won't like me if I come on talking about retreats on my fitness vegan page and talking about art on my fitness, so I try to keep it as tidy and as, neat as possible.
Well, I will make sure I have all of your information in there, because it was funny, before we started recording, I saw you talking about on Fit Vegan, your confession about how confession was good for the soul. Yes. You had a cookie, and I was like, and some chips. I was like, girl, I eat plant-based, but primarily I don't consider myself a vegan. I can't do it. But we primarily eat plant-based. And then if I want meat, I give into it, because I know it's something my body must be craving, but I don't give it all the time. Mm-hmm. So I was laughing when you were talking about that cookie. You had the cookie.
Yes.
She made the sign. She made the cookie sign. I was like, poor thing. You just go ahead and confess, girl. You only have one life to live. Eat that cookie and move on.
But the really beta testing with that on my own system was just that I could barely sit through the ending of that.
Yeah, because you get
So
so sleepy.
when you eat clean and you eat differently and not so processed, then you're more alert and energetic. And I'm like, Yvette, you are sitting in the front row now. I had to ask her a question to help me stay alert. She appreciated it though. She did.
I feel you. I feel you. I had that same situation today. I had some chips and I was just like on a call, like, sorry. I normally don't eat chips during the day, but
Yeah.
caught me today. So no, but I definitely want to make sure we support, and I would love to have you back to have a conversation about relationships, because I know we did not really talk too much about your book.
Mhm.
But definitely I would love to kind of dive back into that, because I'm very curious about, what your perspective is. So I will make sure, like I said, I link all your Etsy information in. But as we wrap up, if you could think of, and because I always come up with this random question I like to ask all of
Uh-huh.
my guests, if you could think of one thing that you have not already mentioned that you would love my audience to know about you, what would that one thing be?
Okay. One thing. One
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yep.
Well, I might have alluded to it, and that is that a lot of times people align themselves in their comfort zone with
Mm-hmm.
other people. I once picked up and went to California to go hiking with a Christian group that was doing one of the national parks. So I would want people to know that I'm a really fun, cool Christian lady, right? And so when I put stuff out there, I don't care if you're in Alaska, join me, join me. Because I think that, again, especially if you're single, but the things that I do are not restricted to singles, right? Not
Okay.
restricted, remember that. But especially if you're a single female and you're just, I don't know what to do. Check in with Yvette. Yvette, what's going on? What's up? What's up?
Okay.
Right? I would want you to know that you will not be disappointed, because a part of my DNA is to go above and beyond to make sure that you are satisfied and you have a good time, and all in a fun, safe, and faith-based manner, right? I'm not one of those, I'm not raunchy. And I mean, to each his own,
Right.
yeah, to each his own. But I'm definitely, I think, somebody that would appeal to the faith-based woman who's looking for company, looking for somebody
Mm-hmm.
else. I do have that ability to go out and travel the world by myself, and I have done it. I lived in Cameroon, West Africa, for an entire year on my own when I was only 24 years old, or 25 or thereabouts.
Wow.
I have traveled to the Bahamas for Christmas, just myself alone, and then just ran into people at church and had a blast that night and the day after. I'm hoping that others will, if they don't have that happy-go-lucky already spirit, that I can inspire them, because you're safe in my hands and you will not be disappointed.
Oh, I totally believe that, because, like I said, you have this energy about you that is just very positive and just so welcoming. So I totally believe you. Really, I do, and I'm just very excited to see where you're gonna go and how everything is gonna grow for you. Because
Right.
you seem like I said, if I were to say anything, you might be the queen of pivot.
I would claim that. I would
I
claim that.
I think that you are the queen of pivot. Like you can
Yep.
move,
Yep.
and I respect it, and I'm inspired by it, and I am so thankful that we got a chance to connect and have this conversation. Because yes, so I will have you back again at some point, because we got to keep talking about this situation. I can't wait to see where you're going to wind up next.
I would love it. I would love it. And I can't wait to see you at one of my retreats.
Yes. I'm
What,
totally open.
what state are you in, by the way?
I'm in Florida.
Okay.
What state are you in?
I'm in Maryland.
Okay. I've always
South,
wanted to go to Maryland. I've never
Southwest.
been.
Southwest.
Okay.
Quick flight.
Yep. Totally. We can't see, so we're gonna have to talk about that. So
Mhm.
okay. All right. So we're gonna chat about it. But I want to thank you for coming on tonight and having this conversation with me. I'm so excited to have an opportunity to connect with you. And I just want to thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for listening.
Yes, I really appreciate it. So, guys, that is the end of episode 105. I'll make sure all of Yvette's information is in the show notes so that way you guys can connect with her. I'll have my information there as well. Please don't hesitate to like, share, subscribe. This episode also will go live with video on YouTube on Sunday, and I will make sure that the YouTube channel is there as well. I'm still growing, y'all. Keep the shade going. I'm still growing, baby steps. Second video, 105 audio, but 2 video. It's a growth process. Grow
That's all
with
right.
me.
That's
It's a
all
growth
right.
process. But thank you guys again for connecting. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back next week, and I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.